What's going on, everybody? Cleepus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A04s and the Motorola Moto G Power 2022. Now, as always, if you do end up wanting to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, we're getting a 6.5-inch 90Hz PLS LCD display with a 720p resolution, a PPI of 270, and a 20:9 aspect ratio. With the Moto G Power 2022, we're getting a 6.5-inch 90Hz IPS LCD display. This phone also has a 720p resolution, a PPI of 270, and a 20:9 aspect ratio as well. So in pretty much every way, these displays are basically the same size, same resolution, and for what they are, I would say the image quality on both phones is pretty good. So in general, if you're going to be consuming a decent amount of content, you're really not going to go wrong with either phone, but just keep in mind, as far as the display goes, there's really not a significant difference between them. For storage, both phones are getting 64GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so definitely a good amount of storage here. For the average user, as long as you're mindful of what you're putting on your phone, and you make sure to offload things to a microSD card whenever you can, the storage we're getting with these phones will be perfectly fine. And considering even at this point in 2023, a lot of phones in this price range still only have 32GB. It's definitely nice to see that both phones again do have 64 instead. For security features, both phones do have Face Unlock, and they both have fingerprint scanners. With the Samsung Galaxy A04s, it's right here on the power key, and with the Moto G Power, it's right here on the back. But starting with the A04s, let's go ahead and give them a try. There we go. One more time. And there we go. And now for the Moto G Power. There we go. One more time. And there we go. So as you can see there, both fingerprint scanners were real fast and responsive, no issues at all. And again, both phones do have Face Unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now for the camera setups here, with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, we got a 5-megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 50-megapixel main camera, a 2-megapixel macro camera, and a 2-megapixel depth sensing camera. With the Moto G Power, we got an 8-megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 50-megapixel main camera, a 2-megapixel macro camera, and a 2-megapixel depth sensing camera. So in general, as you can see, the features are pretty much exactly the same, actually down to the last megapixel for that matter. So overall, no matter which phone you go with, although unfortunately neither phone has an ultra-wide camera, which is too bad at this point. For everything else, I do think both phones do have really good camera setups. Now to give you an idea of what they can do, first, here's some pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy A04s. In general, for more of an entry-level phone, things definitely do look real nice here. And it really goes to show if you're trying to take good pictures, you really don't need to spend $1,000 or even $500 on a higher end device. You can definitely find an affordable phone like this that in most cases will get the job done just fine. So whether you're just taking a few photos here and there to send to friends and family, maybe using something like Snapchat where the quality doesn't really matter a whole lot, or even using something like Instagram where you really want things to be presentable, no matter what you're doing, the photo quality we get here is going to be good enough no matter what. Now here's some pictures taken with the Moto G Power, and honestly, same kind of thing. I feel like the quality here is really similar. So between the two, I'm going to let you decide which one is actually better because at the end of the day, it is kind of subjective. But overall, if you are looking for something more affordable that can also still take really good photos, you're not going to go wrong with either phone here. Now when it comes to RAM and processor, with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the Exynos 850 processor. With the Moto G Power, this phone also has 4GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio G37. So overall, when it comes to actual performance, you're not really going to see a significant difference between the two. And in general, while not being the fastest phones out there, I mean, considering these phones are really entry-level phones, you're probably not expecting that anyway. But for more basic activities, like light web browsing and social media use, and then watching videos and stuff like that, either phone will get the job done just fine. But of course, if you're more of a power user, if you're going to be on your phone all the time, especially doing more demanding activities, you're probably going to want to spend a bit more and get something a bit faster. Now I did run benchmark tests on these phones using Geekbench 5. And here are the results I got. So between the two, as you can see, the Moto G Power does have a bit of an advantage, but honestly, in real life, when you're actually using these phones, you're not really going to see a huge difference. So on one hand, if you do want to get the faster phone between the two, then definitely go with the Moto G Power. But on the other hand, again, in general practice, if you're really just looking for something for more basic activities anyway, the A04s is still going to be perfectly fine. Now both phones do have 5000 mAh batteries, so you can definitely expect to get some great battery life and longevity here. If you're in a situation where maybe you're not always around a charger, but you still need something that's really going to last all day, either phone is going to be great for that, and then down the road as the batteries degrade, which of course all batteries do, compared to say a 3000 mAh battery, the batteries in these phones are not going to wear out nearly as quickly. So if you like to get one phone and keep it for a longer time without having to replace it, then either phone will be great for that too. Now for the software, the Samsung Galaxy A04s does have Android 13, and knowing Samsung's software support with this phone, you can also expect to get several other major updates in the future. On the other hand, with the Moto G Power, unfortunately this phone does only have Android 11, and seeing that this phone is over a year old at this point, I'm not even counting on it getting Android 12, let alone Android 13. So on one hand, it's not like this phone runs bad because of it, but on the other hand, if the software is important to you, the A04s is definitely going to be a much better choice. And honestly, at this point in 2023, if you're going through the trouble of getting a new phone anyway, getting one that's stuck on Android 11 is honestly probably not the best value. So definitely something to keep in mind. In addition to this, keep in mind that unfortunately, neither of these phones has NFC. So if you like to use tap and pay, you will have to get a different phone entirely. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? Overall, this is kind of a tough one because in a lot of ways, these phones are almost exactly the same. The camera setups are pretty similar, and honestly, I feel like the photo quality isn't too different. They have pretty much the exact same display, same battery, and the same amount of storage too. That being said though, I personally would go with the Samsung Galaxy A04s because this phone does have a much newer software and better long-term software support, and it would be one thing if the Moto G Power had Android 12, but with Android 11, I mean at this point in 2023, this is definitely more on the outdated side. And again, if you are going through the trouble of getting a new phone, I feel like you might as well get something with newer software and better software support. And I guess a case could be made for the Moto G Power being a bit faster, but keep in mind again, the performance difference in real life is really not that noticeable. So honestly, I feel like the A04s having much better software really outweighs this. That being said, another thing to consider here is that with the Moto G Power, this phone is being offered by US carriers, even to this day, and there are some pretty good deals on it, whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, as of right now, this phone is not currently launched in the US, so if you get it, you will have to get it factory unlocked, which is a little bit more pricey. Not that much so that it makes it not worth it, but compared to the Moto G Power that you can get some really good deals on, if you want the more affordable phone between the two, the Moto G Power will have an advantage. And honestly, if you really don't care about the software, then because of this, that really would make the Moto G Power a better choice. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for a really affordable entry-level phone that has plenty of storage, a good camera, a decently nice display, decent performance for more basic activities, and a really good battery, then either phone is definitely worth considering. But this concludes my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A04s and the Motorola Moto G Power 2022. Again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where we'll be linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to follow Kalipus Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.